our planet has survived billions of years of catastrophic events that have shaped it into the world we live on today. However, one day there will be an event so disastrous that it will destroy this floating rock and end this experiment known as humanity. After considering numerous possibilities, we've narrowed down our list to the top 7 earth-shattering events. Hello and welcome to Z. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Would we be sucked into an endless void? Could a second star appear and fry our planet? Or is death waiting just below Earth's crust? Whether it was the breakup of Pangea or the meteor that took out the dinosaurs, Earth has been through more than one apocalyptic event. These events have changed our planet's geography while ushering in new ages for the life forms that followed, including us. This usually happened at the expense of the creatures that were already here. But somewhere in our planet's future lies an extinction event so devastating that it might not just take out all of humanity, but the Earth as well. And in a matter of time, our world could return to dust. So, what would it take to rip apart the Earth completely? Stargazing can bring a sense of wonder that calms your mind. But that may be over now because that shooting star you spotted isn't here to grant your wish. You may want to duck. Hurricanes remain one of the most deadly natural events on our planet, leaving a trail of death and destruction wherever they land. But if an asteroid hits an ocean with enough force and heat, hurricanes would seem like fluff balls compared to what would come next. A big enough asteroid would superheat the oceans to over 49 degrees Celsius, setting off a massive storm known as a hypercane. Winds would move as fast as the speed of sound, and clouds would reach heights of up to 40 kilometers. The winds would shoot water and aerosols into the stratosphere, destroying the ozone layer. So, even if the winds didn't carry you into space, you could get fried by the radiation on Earth's surface. This gas giant has twice the mass of all the planets in our solar system combined. And the gases swirling around inside Jupiter's atmosphere are the same material that makes up the Sun. But if Jupiter became 1,000 times more massive, that distant yellow would wreak havoc on our planet. With that much mass, Jupiter would turn into a star. Since this new star would be right in the middle of the solar system, planetary bodies would change their orbits. Earth could get pulled in closer to Jupiter and get scorched by the heat coming off the former planet. Or even worse, gravitational forces could make our world a rogue planet. This means we'd be sent away into space outside the solar system, endlessly roaming the universe in search of a new home. Without the heat of the sun to keep us warm, the surface of the Earth would freeze over, killing all life on our planet. But maybe we shouldn't focus on a star that hasn't formed yet and concentrate on the one we have. After all, this ball of gas makes life possible on our planet. But since it burns through 600 million tons of hydrogen every second, it's only a matter of time before this power source is used up. When that occurs, the sun's core will become saturated with helium and begin to shrink. The increased pressure and temperature would cause the sun to spit out massive amounts of energy. The sun's outer layers would expand, creating a deadly heat wave on Earth. Our oceans would evaporate into thin air, and the radiation would scorch the planet's surface. Finally, the sun, once the giver of life, would swallow up what's left of our molten planet. If the sun keeps expanding, our solar system would face a new threat. If the sun gains even more mass before collapsing, you could witness the birth of one of the most mysterious forces in the universe, a black hole. The product of a dying star, the gravitational pull of this void can rip apart other stars and planets. Right now, the sun is too small to create one of these catastrophes. But if a black hole appears in front of Earth, the uneven gravitational pull would start deforming the planet. Earthquakes and volcanic eruptions would break out all over the planet. And as you come closer to the black hole's event horizon, this monster might stretch out this world like a rubber band. A black hole sucks in matter by compressing it horizontally, making it look like a noodle. We call this spaghettification. Every bit of our planet would be stretched into a string of atoms and fed into this hungry void. Do you think Earth's future couldn't get any worse? Well, come on, this is what if. Right now, 10 to 20 volcanoes are erupting across our planet, spewing ash and gas into the atmosphere. But if every volcano on Earth exploded at once, you couldn't escape the fumes and heat no matter where you live. Rocks reaching 1,000 degrees Celsius would travel as fast as 700 kilometers per hour. With such a massive amount of molten rock slamming onto the surface, the planet could lose its balance and the poles could realign. A thick layer of ash and gas would suffocate Earth and eventually block out all the sunlight. And while the lava cools, the temperature on Earth would drastically drop, sending us into another ice age. While this event wouldn't necessarily end our entire planet, it would destroy any chance of sustaining life until those clouds clear up. The Earth makes one full rotation on its axis every 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.1 seconds, and it's not moving at the same speed everywhere. The rotational speed varies depending on your distance from the poles. If you're at the equator, it moves the fastest at a rate of 460 meters per second. At the North or South Pole, it's moving the slowest, technically not moving at all. This rotation makes Earth suitable for life. The dial cycle, or the shifting between day and night, helps keep the planet at a habitable temperature. Earth's rotation is the driving force of weather patterns, and even tides are affected by the Earth's spin. So, if we were to accelerate this rotation, would we completely destabilize the climate? If you increase the rotational speed by 0.45 meters per second, our days would be shorter, but only by a minute and a half. You might not even notice the change. However, even with this slight increase, sea levels would rise by several centimeters or a few inches. The water around the poles would migrate toward the equator. Now, if you increase this acceleration to 45 meters per second, then a single day would be about 22 hours. You'd start to feel confused, almost like jet lag. We'd also need to add a few more days to the year. But for sea levels, it would be a dramatic change. The world's oceans at the equator would rise as much as 9 to 20 meters, submerging places like New York, Venice, and Mumbai. Millions of people would be displaced. If we doubled the current rotation speed to 920 meters per second, disaster would strike. Water would cover everything except for the highest mountains like Kilimanjaro or the highest summits of the Andes. Satellites orbiting the planet would be out of sync, as they need to orbit at a speed that matches our rotation. This would disrupt communications, television broadcasting, and military operations, and you would notice some significant weather changes. The air would be heavy with moisture, dense fog clouds, and constant rain would be the norm in regions near the equator. If you keep speeding things up, at some point, you could fly off the planet. That's because the centrifugal force of the rotation would be enough to overcome the gravity keeping you on the surface. This would happen at a speed of 7,886 meters per second. You would experience reverse rain, where droplets of water would move upward in the atmosphere instead of falling. Now, if you push the speed to 11,000 meters per second, the Earth's crust would begin to flatten at the poles and bulge around the equator. Enormous earthquakes would rattle the planet. There would be little chance that anything on Earth could survive. But if you were to crank the velocity up some more, brace yourself. At the speed of light, 299,792,458 meters per second, rotating at this extreme speed would distort time on Earth. It would slow down so much that it would eventually stop. You would freeze in time, so hopefully, you'd be caught in a good moment. Earth could become a tiny black hole because an object moving at the speed of light has infinite mass. Nothing would be making it out of this situation alive. A Category 6 hurricane is about to rock New York. Category 5 is the highest classification a storm can get. These storms have wind speeds of 252 kilometers per hour or higher, and they're catastrophic. Homes get destroyed, large areas become uninhabitable, and power outages can last for weeks or even months. But with the warming effects of climate change on our oceans and atmosphere, a whole new classification could be added to the mix. Category 6, a superstorm. This storm would make a Category 5 storm seem like a windy walk in the park. The very first seed of this tropical storm would form in October, late into hurricane season. It would start as a low-pressure weather system that creates clouds and thunderstorms. 10 days later, This tropical wave, as it's known, would evolve into a tropical storm in the Caribbean. But it wouldn't stop there. After a few more days, it's officially Hurricane What If, and as it passes over Jamaica and Cuba, it would continue to grow in size and force, climbing from a category 1 to 3 and even up to 5. From New York, you'd see the damage What If is causing in its path, but you still wouldn't worry. Normally, these storms curve east and out to sea before they hit you. This time, you wouldn't be so lucky. 3 weeks after it began, the storm would hit New York City with the force of a Category 6 hurricane. Winds blowing over 300 kilometers per hour would rip the city apart, sending debris and glass flying at lethal speeds. The devastation would be like nothing the city has ever seen. A storm surge over 8 meters high would flood the city and trap millions of people inside their homes. The water would mix with sewage, contaminating drinking water. As for food, it would spoil quickly, and you'd have no way to refrigerate it. The power outage would cast the city into darkness. With subways and streets underwater, the city would be cut off from the outside world, making it hard for emergency services to reach anyone. After the storm passes, the ruins of the city would show the true extent of the damage. Cleanup and recovery would take years. Life on Earth has ended multiple times before, and it will likely happen again. Are you ready for these scenarios? Let us know in the comments. These doomsday predictions are based on science, but there are some things science can't explain yet. What if the threat wasn't deep underground, but only 2 meters below you? What if a zombie apocalypse happened? You'd better start working on your cardio because that's a story for another What If?